Everyone, and thank you for purchasing the Popup Shopify section by qwiqode. In this video, I'll be showing you how to actually use it. So if you haven't installed it yet, please refer to the separate video included in the package. And you also have access to a PDF with instructions. So to get started, head over to your theme editor, navigate to the page you want to add the section to. Over on the left, click on Add Section and search for the section. And you get here QQ Popup. And you get the section that appears as so. There's a lot of options here, so pay attention. We start off when you're set on the main section here, just so that you could see all of the details easily and all of the different elements that you're adding. We have this section here, the setting here, called Preview Popup. So this will always keep it open so that you will always see it while you're editing in Theme Editor. Even if you have this on the live site, it won't work. It only is active inside the Theme Editor. So even if you forgot to keep this checked, it's fine on the live site. It won't always appear. But you see, if we turn it off, then it's gone. We'll get into all the different settings here in a minute. First, we'll start over setting up the content and everything. So here there are 4 different types of blocks. They're already pre-added for you. You can, of course, hide them, delete them, however you want. The first one would be media. So media is, you can add in here an image or a video in places. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll select an image. Let's choose this image right now. Or you can select a video and the video will appear up here. Now you have all sorts of settings. So you have positioning. We can position the image, but it's down further below. First, you can set media width, so you can make the image bigger or smaller, like that. You can add a border radius to the image, like that. You could do that also to the pop-up, but we'll get to that later. So let's just add in here 16, 14, or something like that. And we can also set the media width for the mobile view, like that. So we could set it up, make it smaller if you want. Actually, let's keep this at 0 for right now. Next, we have media dimensions. So you can set this image to be the original, which is, this image originally is a portrait. You can set it to landscape. You could set it up square or portrait if the image isn't already portrait as the original view. In this case, if we're placing the image at the top, then it's best to keep it at landscape. Just as you can see, because when it's in portrait, it's too tall, unless you make everything much smaller. The media height, so we can adjust either by the media dimensions, where it does it automatically, or you can do custom height, and then you can adjust the custom height here if you want it smaller or bigger. Notice that it just crops the image. It doesn't obviously warp it, but we can keep this at auto right now. Over here, media position, what I was talking about. So right now it's at the top, but we could set it up to be on the left side. Oops. Obviously on the left side, it does create some problems because of the width. So we want to lower the width like that. Now you may want to have an image like this, where it doesn't stretch out to the very bottom. If you want to warp that, even though you have it set as landscape, you could just set full height, and then it crops it for you. So it just always goes to the full height of it. Let me go back here. It's a setting we'll get to in a minute, but I want to set the maximum width of the pop-up a little bit bigger so we have a little bit more room to play with. All right. Next, so we have it set at full height. Now we can move it to the right, we can move it to the bottom. Let's keep it on the left side for now. Now we want to add some margin here because we don't like the text is touching, so we'll add some margins there. Now we have the same settings for mobile version in terms of the media height. In mobile version, we have a little bit, we don't have the option, as you can see here, the media position, to have it on the left or the right. You can either hide it or you could put it at the top or the bottom, because obviously on phones we wouldn't have that that space available. And then of course you can also adjust additional media margin here if you need it. And you can set here, if you set this to custom height, then you can adjust the height as you'd like. But the width is usually just 100%. We also have padding here. It's a different setting that I'll show you later on. And for video, if we set up here a video, select this video for instance, then we also have an option to autoplay the video, to loop it, and to hide or show the controls. Like that. But so this doesn't distract us, let's just remove the video, we'll keep the image. So those are the settings for the media. Next we have the text. So this is this and that. So we have subscribe to our newsletter, which is the title. You can set this here to any of the headings that you'd like. And you have for subtitle, you have this option here. Same thing, you can set this to being a paragraph or to be one of the headings, like so. Title styling, so we can set the color to a color that we'd like. We can choose something like that. We can choose a custom font, so checking that changes the font, and then you have a long list of fonts that you can select from that Shopify offers. If you have a manually installed font for more advanced users, then you can go into your CSS and basically grab the font definition and paste it right into there if it doesn't appear in this list. Next, we can override the font weight. So if we want to have it bold, well, actually it is bold right now. If we want to have it regular or any other weight that your font comes with, so you can set that here. Title margin top, so that's the margin up here. Now, if you can see right now, it's being aligned vertically. So it seems as though there's already some margin top, but there isn't. And then we can add some more margin top and just push all that down even more if we want. But for the most case, you probably want to keep it at 0. Font size, so you can set the font size to whatever you'd like. If you keep it at 0, then it should override and get the pre-selected setting from your theme. So if I put in H2 here, you see the font already automatically takes what the theme has already defined for H2s. And same thing for all of these. If it's 0, it's using the default value, but we can always change, letter spacing like that if we want to have something more custom. And then line height, as you know, that's the space between each line, so we can override that as well. But we'll keep this at 0 and at 0. And then you have the same options for mobile version. So if you remember mobile version, we have a lot of space here. We can get rid of this title top margin, and we can also get rid of this font like that. But maybe here we would want it to be a little bit smaller, so we can adjust that like so. Next, we have those same exact settings for the subtitle. So I won't get into that, but we have the color and the font and margins, font size, and so on. So that's for these two. Next, we have the option for the newsletter sign up form. So this form, it's the one that integrates or interfaces with the Shopify admin. So whoever signs up here, it'll be added automatically to your newsletter signups within Shopify. And then you can use, you probably already have apps if you're using Klaviyo or MailChimp to send those users over to your a third-party account. So for all these, there's a bunch of settings here as well. So we can choose to show the name field or not. Email field, obviously, we want to have that. You have the label, so that's this blue text right over here. And you have placeholder, which is the text that appears within the text block. Same thing for the email, you can customize those. And for the button, so you have option to change this as well. Next, we have the width of the form. So right now it's at 100%, but we can make it smaller if we want. You know, something like this, or something. In a minute, I'll show you how you can adjust also the look and feel of how these items are laid out. We'll keep this at 100%. That's usually what you'd want to do anyway. And then form margin top, giving you more space over there. Margin bottom, which is also not necessarily relevant. Oh, sorry, it is relevant because we have this extra one, this text block, that you can add this, so you can add more space below it, like that. So form elements position, we have option for inline. So these items will be inline, one next to another. In this example, they're being pushed down because there's no actual room here. So we can go to the media width and make that smaller. And then as you can see, you can have something like that. And so then they are in the same line, and they work that way. But you can also choose to have them stacked, and then they're stacked one on top of another, just like so. And then you can adjust the form width because maybe these input fields are a little bit too big. And then you can go back to the media and then make this a little bit bigger like that. And then it looks a little bit nicer. Next, we have margin between elements. So we can increase the space between each field and the button. And we have the same settings for the form max width, margin top and bottom, and whether to have them inline or stacked on mobile as well. Next, label position. So we have the label up here. So we can do it either at the very top or to the left of the field. And then we have here this width. We can make this width bigger, just like that. And then they line up. You can do that. You can also adjust the location, the vertical alignment of the label. So you can have it at the bottom, top, or center. In this case, it's best to keep it at center. You can change the label color. You can adjust more space from between the label and the input field. You can adjust the custom font, the font of the label, and the font size, line height, and letter spacing, and all those same settings for mobile as well. When we go to the input styling, so we can actually choose not to show the label at all. So we can choose just placeholder like that, or just the label and no placeholder, or you can select to have both. Then you can choose custom font for the input field or not. And then you have also font weight, and then you have input background color. So we could choose a different color for the inputs. for the input color of the text. So you can make that, let's say, this dark color. For the placeholder color, which is this text here, you can make it, blue, whatever color you want. Oops. So enable drop shadow on focus is when you click to focus into a field, then you get the a drop shadow and a border color. So you can actually turn that off. So you only get the border color, and you can change the border color itself. You can then also adjust font size. Again, if it's set at 0, then that means you're using the theme's predefined settings. You have line height, letter spacing, border radius for the fields themselves, and border width. You can make the border thicker if you'd like, or no border at all. And you can also choose to only show the bottom border. So this works mainly if you're not using an input field, or you make it the same color. So then it looks like that. And then if you could see, this is not really aligned because the label is set at center alignment. So then you can go here and you can select bottom, and then they're aligned better. So let's put this thing back. Then we have the same settings for mobile here as well. Now for the button, so we can choose a custom font for the button. And font weight, font size, letter spacing, we can choose to have the button full width, the full width of the form. Again, the form width is being limited by that setting we set up before. But if you don't have full width, you can also just make it a little bit bigger if you want. That's a little bit too big, but you can make it smaller like that. And then you can align it to the left, to the center of the form, or to the right. So if we go back to the form width and we put it at 100%, we can make it full width, or we can choose where to put the button. We also have horizontal padding and vertical padding. So horizontal padding, sometimes it's not visible because it depends on the width of the form, but it's basically the space between the text and the edge. So if we make this much smaller, then you can see the space. We don't want as much, but it becomes much smaller like that because we set the max width here very small. If we make it bigger, so it's kind of a play between them. It depends on how long your text is here to really see the value. But you have control to set it up properly with enough space as you'd like. Vertical padding is the space above and below the text inside the button. Then we have margin top, so we can move this further away from the fields. We can make the border, give it a border color. You can see right now it's basically like that black, and we can add corner radiuses, and we have those same settings for the mobile, the width, the font size, padding, everything. And then we have the color, so we can choose a different color. Let's say we'd like it to be a red button with white text and a black border, and then, or let's say a red border. And then when we hover over, we want it to be white border with red text and a red border. So then when we hover over, voila. Next, we have confirmation message. So after the user has submitted the form, then this form will basically disappear, and you'll want a confirmation message. So you can preview that confirmation message. And just put in whatever you'd like it to say here. And then the same kind of settings for fonts and font weight, font size, and so on. You can turn that back off like that. And then lastly, we have this text block here. You want to put in a privacy policy link, or the fine print, as you say. So you can put that text right up here. You can change the color of it however you want, fonts and all this stuff. Now here you can do stick block to the bottom of the content area. So this works mainly when you're using, let's say, a portrait image like that, and you want this to be at the very bottom. So you can go here and you can click stick to the bottom and boom, it sticks to the bottom, and then you can adjust the distance from the bottom as well, like that. So the margin top isn't as relevant unless it's really close to the button. Then we have font size, line height, letter spacing, and same settings for the mobile version. Now let's go to the main settings. So we click on the main settings here, scroll the way up. So we have the preview pop-up that I explained before. We can set the position of the pop-up. So right now it's set to center, but if we want it to appear at the top left, the top right, all 9 different positions, bottom right, bottom left. It's not as seen because we made a really big pop-up in this example, but if your pop-up is much smaller, then you'll really have just the pop-up here on the left side or however you want. Let's keep it on the center. You can set the when to display the pop-up. So how many seconds after the page loads. So you can set that, for 3 seconds, for up to 30 seconds after. You can select that this will appear only on the home page and not on all of the pages. And you can select not to show the pop-up again. If a user closes it, and by the way, if you click on close now while you're previewing, it won't close. It only works when you're not previewing it. But if somebody closes it and then he goes back to the home page or to a new page, then you can have the pop-up appear again. It could be annoying on one hand. On the other hand, it can kind of lead him to sign up. But you can also turn that off, and if he closes it, he won't see it again for 30 days. So you can set this up as well to change however many days you want the pop-up to be hidden if he closed it or signed up or so on. Of course, if he signs up, it won't show up regardless of the setting. Next, we have the background color, so we can change the background color of the pop-up. Horizontal padding, and so probably you've noticed this border around here. So we can remove that, and we can have the image flush with the edges, but then that also means that the form itself is flush, as you can see here, with the edges. But we'll get to more settings in a minute. And then we have those same settings for the mobile version as well. Next, we can set the text alignment of everything here, so we can make everything center aligned or right aligned. Pop-up max width we were seeing before, so we can adjust the size of that. So if I adjusted the size now, just to show you here, if I do bottom left, you can see, and if we make it even smaller, it could also it'll just appear up smaller over there, of course. Oh, I'll keep this here. I wanted to show you. We have this setting here, pop-up horizontal margin from edge. So that's this margin from the edge of the browser. So if you're not doing center, then you have a certain distance from the edges. So you can increase that if you want, or make it 0 and it touches the edge. Of course, you do probably want a little bit of space, and then you have vertical margin as well. It's like that. Now you have the thickness of the border. Of course, if you put 0, no border, well, actually you have 1 here, but you can get rid of the color, and then you don't have a border at all. And you can increase the radius of it. Now, let's put this back into the center. It's a little bit easier to view. As you notice, we have a drop shadow effect. We can turn that off, turn it on, and then if you do have it, you can change also the color of the drop shadow, the opacity of it, so it'll be more prominent, and the spread, how big it really is. So you can make it much smaller, much bigger, and so on. Now, for the mobile, we have these same settings where we can do, oh, we didn't set up all of these stacking, so it kind of looks a little odd, but you have the center alignment and you have the position where here, because we don't have the corners, we basically couldn't align it to the very top, to the very bottom, or center, but the width is always going to be this much width. You can, however, adjust the width of it by giving more space from the edges. Or you do 0 and it's actually touching the edge. Next, content area styling. I told you there's a lot of settings here. So here, because we removed the main padding, here they're still touching, so we have content area vertical padding. So we can add some more space there. We can add more padding to the right. That's a little bit too much. Something like that. Don't forget, we also have the setting for distance between the image and the text here as well. So actually, maybe we should do that so it just looks a little bit more aligned. Media margin. We can even put it at 0 if we added more there, and then this distance and this distance will be the same. So there's a few different ways to edit this stuff. Then we have the same content area padding for mobile as well. Next, we have settings for the close toggle. So we have the two different ways to close. You can either close by clicking on the plus, or you can close by clicking outside of the box. So we gave those three options where you can either just close with the close button, or clicking outside, or both. So you could set both, and then they have an option to either click outside or click here. And again, it's not, I'll show you in a minute, but because we're in preview, you can't really see it. You can replace this X with an image of your own. So you can upload an SVG or a PNG or whatever you'd like. You can adjust the size of it. You can make, if you're using the default one, you can adjust the thickness of the lines in the X. This is if you're adding a background color. So if we scroll a little bit down, we have a background color. So let's say we make this white. So here you can, make it square, or you can make it round, like that. You can add a border to this. So this option, for instance, if we're doing that, so we have a border. There we go. So we have a border right here. And then you can also, just for design's sake, you can get rid of the background color. And then you can have an X like that. You can select to have this X a little bit opacity when you hover over, or you can just set colors. So let's make this red, make this red. So when you hover over, it becomes red. And that's it. Those are all the settings. I'm sure you're going to find this pop-up very flexible and very useful, and I hope it helps achieve your goals. And so that's it. If you have any questions, any issues, any problems, please don't hesitate to reach out to us via the support page. And that's it. Happy customizing. Have a good day.